What's going on, beautiful people, and welcome back to another comic book review video. I'm your majestic sayer of words, SuperCliff, and if you guys are new to this channel, then do me a solid by smashing that like and subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll never miss out on an upload, and so that you'll always be kept up to date with your favorite top tier comics happening in the comic book world. And today, folks, we are covering the latest Marvel event, Devil's Reign, issue number 1, which is written by the glorious Chip Zdarsky. Now, this story has been building up for years. Wilson Fisk went from Kingpin of crime to mayor of the biggest city in America, and he is going to bring his full criminal and political power to bear upon the superhero community, who call NYC their home. Now, Daredevil and Kingpin have been enemies for many years, but the villain who has waged war against the devil of Hell's Kitchen for decades has now set his sights upon the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Luke Cage, and many more. For Fisk has an army of supervillains at his command. However, this is just his opening salvo, because for years, Fisk has waited for his time to strike. War has been declared. Thus, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Alrighty, folks. So our story picks up in the Mediterranean Sea, 2 weeks prior, and we have Mr. and Mrs. Storwin, two individuals that you could consider the elites. The individuals who pick the figureheads that are in control. Basically, they are the biggest pair of assholes. And right now, out on their yacht, they are currently discussing if they want to keep Mayor Fisk in power. Now, one of the reasons why they put Fisk in charge in the first place, they wanted to see on what he was going to do. More or less, this is all a game to them, just regular season of reality TV, just to see what could actually happen if you put a gangster such as Wilson Fisk into political power. But this is where the pair ask themselves the ultimate question. With the election coming up soon, is there a chance that someone else could take his place? Is there someone else whom they can crown? And that's what's going to take us to New York City 1 week later, and this scene is taking place shortly after Mayor Fisk had just gotten married to TYPHOID Mary. And just to sprinkle a little backstory here with regards to Daredevil issue 36, this is where we see Daredevil arriving on the streets to meet up with Wilson Fisk. And Fisk gets this meeting up and running effective immediately, as he throws down a folder that was supposed to hold the knowledge of Daredevil's secret identity. But the only issue is that every single page inside of it is blank, completely wordless. And because Fisk has no memory due to Matt using the power of the Purple Man's children to essentially make him forget everything, including his identity, so far it's been driving Fisk insane. He basically feels violated. He feels like Daredevil abused his mind and his memories. Therefore, this immediately reignites all of Kingpin's anger towards Daredevil, for he is now hellbent in trying to figure out who he is, and that whatever comes next is going to be his first move of chess. Now, this is what picks us up in the present day, and we have Wilson Fisk giving a speech to all the people. With news cameras of news outlets everywhere, everyone is listening to his new declaration. And what Mayor Fisk is doing is laying down some new laws, telling the people that superheroes have not been held accountable. Whenever superheroes get into a fight, there is always damage and destruction. And it's because of the superheroes that we constantly are having these outlandish attacks. Thus, Wilson Fisk puts into effect the Powers Act. And so to those who have superhuman abilities, he lets them know that effective immediately, any individual who exhibits the use of their powers that are deemed superhuman or commit acts of destruction or vigilantism, they are going to be charged as a threat for those living in New York City. Basically, folks, we are seeing the beginnings of Civil War 3 or 2, because, the real Civil War 2 doesn't exist. But I digress. Now, to go along with this Powers Act, Fisk has created what he calls the Thunderbolt Unit, and this team is made up of both villains and regular human beings. A team designed specifically to hunt down superheroes and vigilantes alike. This news is also public, and so we even get Storm who chimes in, letting them know that Krakoa and all of its mutants have amnesty and diplomatic immunity. So if Mayor Fisk wants to mess with any of the mutants within New York City, then it's going to come with huge and significant consequences. Now already we are having our first wave of arrests, And that starts with them trying to capture Moon Knight, with him patrolling the neighborhood and keeping his community safe from what lurks in the dark. And here we see US Agent and the Thunderbolts converging on top of him. Thus, a bloody brawl ensues. And while that's happening, we have Miles Morales swinging his way through to rescue some people from a burning building. But because Miles is demonstrating his power, once he comes out of the building, the Thunderbolt unit arrives to arrest him. But hold on to your butts, folks, because this is when Captain America steps in and lets the unit know that they are not going to do that, and that if they decide that they want to, then they're going to have to go through him. Now, for Captain America, he has gone down this road before, and he is definitely not willing to play the game again. But fortunately, our young Spider-Man and Captain America are not alone in this, because it's here where we see the other Spider-Man, Ben Reilly, along with Daredevil and Elektra, as they come in to start kicking some butt. Now, recognizing that the entire city is collapsing on top of them, they have to get out of here fast. They have to get into hiding so that they can regroup and figure out on what their next course of action is. And so this leads them down into the sewers. And as they get down there, Daredevil feels completely responsible for everything that is happening, because he got the Purple Man's children to alter the memories and mess with the mind of Wilson Fisk. And so by doing this, it's only reignited Wilson's hatred towards superheroes. But Captain America, because he's a nice guy, he assures Daredevil that, we all knew that with Fisk in office, this was all going to be a possibility someday. So don't worry, it's not your fault. Afterwards, we pick up with Susan Storm and Reed Richards, members of the Fantastic Four, being greeted by the Thunderbolts, the NYPD, and the federal agents. Now, Reed tries to tell them all that, they have the paperwork here. Because of that, they're allowed to do the operations and experiments that they do inside the Baxter building. But before any of them can respond, we see Doc Ock using his tentacles to throw on some power dampenings on both Reed and Sue. And while they try to subdue half of the FF, Susan Storm is able to get to the panel and warn both Johnny and the Thing. And with them hearing the code, they know exactly what to do. And with the Thunderbolt agents breaking through the door, they immediately start opening fire. And of course, Ben is not okay with this. And so he does a little bit of clobbering, whilst grabbing the two children and jumping out of the window, to which we see the four of them are able to make their escape on the Fantastic Four's hovercar. And so with that, both Sue and Reed are now in confinement. And thus, this is where we pick up with Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, as they are watching everything transpire. And as all this stuff is unfolding, as people are getting arrested, up ahead we see a vehicle incident. And this is immediately where Luke Cage jumps into action, saving as many people as he can. But this is also where we see Shocker, who's now working as a Thunderbolt, and he throws on some dampeners at Luke Cage, and he tells him that he needs to put them on. But of course Luke Cage tells Shocker to, fuck off, as he crushes them in his hands. Because even though Fisk may have given Shocker a badge, at the end of the day, he is still a piece of shit, and he's nothing more than a thug. And with that, we see a fight break out, as both Jessica and Luke Cage take on the agents of Thunderbolts. And as the two of them beat the crap out of all the bad guys, we have regular civilians recording every aspect of the fight. And whilst being recorded, Luke Cage cannot help himself but let the people know that they mean no violence, and that this is all unlawful. For what Fisk and his people are doing is completely wrong, for everyone is being played by Mayor Fisk, and that this isn't simply about superheroes. Rather, this is all about control. And Luke Cage lets everyone know that if he sees a New Yorker in trouble, he's going to do the right thing. He's going to help them. Now, picking up with our brand new Kingpin Butch, the son of Wilson Fisk, we see him being greeted by his father, who's paying him a visit. And his dad has come to let him know that his new Powers Act, he's doing it in order to help Butch, saying that to run his Kingpin empire, to do this operation without superheroes, is going to be hugely beneficial, and that it's going to make his life a hell of a lot easier. However, Butch doesn't give a crap, because he tells his dad that he knows none of this is for him. This is all for Wilson Fisk. This is all for his secret agenda. So after Wilson Fisk leaves, a little bit disappointed from his son, that's when we see Mike come out of the closet. No, not that way, but I digress. And this guy has been basically filling in the position of Matt Murdock while Matt was in prison the previous arc. And so he lets Butch know that, at the end of the day, what Fisk did might, be beneficial moving forward. And while he knows Butch isn't happy with Fisk, he has to admire the effort that Fisk is putting in with his Powers Act and all the people that he's going to anger. Because in the end, the worst case scenario is that, they might just come for Fisk. But more than anything, they just want to make sure that Fisk wins his election because the guy hungers for power. And if he loses that election, he might come to be Kingpin once more. Later on, after everything Luke Cage said on TV, Jessica is freaking out as she's shown to be packing up because she is readying them both in order to leave the city, assuming that, Mayor Fisk is going to come after them with his thunderbolts. And so as they try to get out of town, they are eventually met by Tony Stark, and Tony lets them know that they have to stop Fisk. Now, they can't just simply go kick down his door and try to arrest him, but rather they have to do this politically. And thus, Tony Stark lets them know that he's going to take down Mayor Fisk by running for office. Tony Stark is running for mayor of New York City. Now, with Fisk having access to the Fantastic Four's lab, this is where we see his men bring in Purple Man. Now, the Purple Man taunts him, telling Fisk to let him out of his cage. But more than anything, Purple Man just wants to rip Fisk's head out. He wants to kill him so bad. However, Wilson is like, dude, no, I want you to work with me. We can make this city so much better. And as we see the door open up, Fisk immediately grabs Purple Man by the neck with a knife in hand. And typically Kilgrave would usually tell someone like Fisk to kill himself by using a knife. However, his powers are not working. And with Fisk telling him that this gift has been squandered and that perhaps someone else may be worthy enough to, possess his gift in order to make a better world, we see Fisk's face splattered with blood of the Purple Man, while simultaneously we are seeing that Fisk is running for president of the United States, because this is his endgame. This is everything he's been planning on. For Wilson, Fisk wants absolute power over America. He wants power over the United States. And that, folks, was Devil's Reign, issue number 1. Now, Daredevil has always been one of those books that has always been consistent with its quality, and probably the most consistent book among the big two. However, when it comes down to it, not only is Daredevil written by some of the industry's greatest talents, but its success delves mostly from the fact that Daredevil's stories have been relatively self-contained. Now, Devil's Reign represents a significant shift away from that approach to being the first sort of major Marvel event to center around Daredevil and his story. Part of this is due to the huge success of Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto's time on Daredevil, and it's in this event where the same creative team takes the lead, which continues from the events of the ongoing Daredevil title. Obviously, if you're a regular reader of that book, then you should have no trouble with jumping into this. Feels like a new chapter of Daredevil's story, while also at the same time telling a grander epic. And yes, it always helps when you're reading a series that a huge Marvel event is based on, but luckily from the case of Devil's Reign, it manages to fill in the gaps pretty well. In case you haven't been reading the current run of Daredevil, Devil's Reign takes the concept of a superhero band and basically updates it a bit more from modern times, which is fair. The story definitely knows what it is. It's not the multiverse ending or Thanos fucking people up for stones. Rather, it's more of a contained story with a political side to it. And you can sort of make the comparison in today's world, with the term of fascism getting a bit more popular. And when it comes to the book's moments, Tony Stark's solution seems more like Marvel is just trying to set up a new status quo for the character, and since Stark has a butt ton of money, it would make sense for him to run. However, when it comes to the book's other highlight, where Luke Cage beats the shit out of the Shocker, only to then follow up with a speech whilst being on camera, it sort of gave me the vibe that maybe Luke's gonna end up becoming mayor. And if that's the case, that's pretty fucking awesome, and I would definitely love to see Luke Cage as mayor, because at the end of the day, we all know Luke Cage would be a much, much better mayor than Tony Stark. When it comes to the book's art, hot damn, it's good to see Cicchetto back on Daredevil, especially after the break he's taken in order to work on this series. Cicchetto's style on Daredevil is very gritty, realistic, and grounded, and that doesn't always work on bright and shiny superhero stories. However, my worries were not needed, as the artwork does all the major characters justice. Cicchetto's gritty street-like approach lends visual consistency. The artwork works especially well for the villains and the street-level characters like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, as the grittier art style brings the most of those characters. To be honest, based on Cicchetto's work here, I would love to see him work on Moon Knight, because the dude has a natural flair for urban-esque areas. The visual storytelling flows extremely well between panels, and Chichetto's ink art does a great job of establishing the darkened mood of the story. Overall, Devil's Reign issue number 1 is a great start to the 6th issue event that may retread the idea of superheroes being illegal. However, it establishes its main players and plot so well that you'll be on board, regardless if the take has been approached before. The craft and care that are taken in this first issue are apparent from the very start, with no filler or fat to be found. Basically, this issue is hard-hitting and filled with some human character drama, which is rarely seen in street-level comics these days. Definitely a must-read. Devil's Reign issue number 1 gets a 9.5 out of 10. And guys, if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button in order to show your support to the channel. Every like truly does help, so yeah, start clicking away. And tell me, what are your guys' thoughts and opinions on this issue? Are you guys hyped for Devil's Reign? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And until the next video, peace.